Tutankhamun, the 12th pharaoh of the 18th Egyptian dynasty. The frail young boy king who was plagued with misfortune. The inbred who amassed more fame in the afterlife than during his reign. Who was he? What did he do? And how did he die? This is the story of Tutankhamun, the most famous pharaoh of Egypt. He was born to Akhenaten, the Heretic king, in circa 1341 BCE, in Akhenaten, Egypt, modern-day Armana. While his father's identity is well known, his mother's is still a mystery, although most believe she's a mummy known as the Younger Lady. At the time of Tutankhamun's birth, ancient Egypt was going through a chaotic time. Akhenaten, Tutankhamun's father, had banned worship of the traditional Egyptian gods in favor of one, Aten, the sun disk. This controversial move by Akhenaten is the reason we know him as the Heretic king. Akhenaten was originally named Amenhotep IV, but changed his name to honor his new deity. Historians are divided on whether Akhenaten meant to elevate Aten above all the other gods, or whether he intended for a complete conversion to monotheism. What was obvious, though, was Akhenaten's attempt to reduce the priest's power and to remove the traditional temple-based economy in favor of a new economic system run by the government. Akhenaten also put all his energy into enforcing this religious conversion, neglecting more important domestic and foreign affairs. These changes, along with the relocation of the capital from Thebes to Akhenaten, threw the Egyptian populace into chaos. Akhenaten would eventually be forced to abdicate the throne in circa 1335 BCE when Tutankhamun was just 7 years of age. Tutankhamun, which means the living image of Amun, was actually christened Tutankhaten at birth. He changed his name later in life to regain the favor of the sun god, Amun-Ra, and to quell social unrest over his father's reforms. According to ancient tradition, pharaohs had 5 names, and Tutankhamun was no different. Each of the names reflected roles attributed to the pharaohs by the gods. His horse name, Ch.2 Mesut. His name under Nekbet and Wajet, Nefer Hepu Segere Tawi. His golden horse name, Weches Kau Sehetep Neteru. His throne name, Nepkperu Ra. And finally, his personal name, Tutankhamun. This was the name his contemporaries would have addressed him with. His name, when inscribed, would have been surrounded in an oval to signify his status as a royal. This is known as a cartouche. Tutankhamun was of slight build and stood at roughly 5 feet 6 inches tall. He also had an overbite, which seemed to be an inherited characteristic of his bloodline. He was a frail boy, and it's assumed he needed a cane to walk due to the numerous walking sticks found in his tomb. Examination of his body has shown he had a deformed left foot, which could have been the result of necrosis. Multiple strains of malaria have also been discovered from Tutankhamun's mummy. This reveals the young boy would have caught the virus multiple times. It is believed that he suffered from these health issues due to the fact that Tutankhamun was an inbred. Inbreeding is not beneficial for human biology, as it produces a weakened immune system and often results in malformations of the body. All of these factors combined would have created a rather fragile figure for a monarch. At age 9, 2 years after his father abdicated the throne and died, Tutankhamun was crowned the Pharaoh of Egypt. Because he was still young, the vizier, Ai, and the head of the military, Horemheb, were chief advisors to Tutankhamun. When he was about 12 years old, Tutankhamun changed his name from Tutankhaten, his birth name, to Tutankhamun in order to regain the favor of the people and the gods. His wife would also change her name from Akhenaten to Akhenaten to reflect her husband's name change. This was the first of Tutankhamun's reforms to reverse the sacrilegious policies of his father. Tutankhamun and his advisors moved the royal court of Egypt back to the original capital at Thebes. The city of Akhenaten would be abandoned. Throughout the rest of his reign, Tutankhamun instilled reforms to return Egypt to the old order. He ended the worship of Aten in favor of the true sun god, Amun-Ra. He also initiated building projects, along with the restoration of monuments defaced under Akhenaten. The projects included construction at the Temple of Karnak in Thebes, decoration of Amenhotep III's colonnade at the Luxor Temple, and the completion of the red granite lions at Soleb. Traditional festivals also resumed, such as the Apis bull and Opet. Tutankhamun's reign was not entirely peaceful. The Egyptians fought wars against the Hittites from Palestine and Syria, the Mitanni from northern Mesopotamia, and the Kushites from Nubia. We don't know if Tutankhamun himself participated in these battles, but there are depictions of Tutankhamun riding a chariot, and at least 6 chariots were found in his tomb. Tutankhamun also sought to restore relations with his neighbors because of his father's neglect towards foreign policy. Some evidence suggests his diplomacy was successful, but Egyptian conflicts during his reign suggest otherwise. After a 10-year reign as the Pharaoh of Egypt, Tutankhamun was dead. There are no surviving records of the details of Tutankhamun's death, and it has been a highly debated topic among historians. Most have come to the conclusion that his premature death was the result of the combination of his numerous health issues, a severe leg fracture, and a strong malarial infection. According to ancient Egyptian sources, Tutankhamun was buried in a hastily prepared tomb in the Valley of the Kings 70 days after his death. He would remain undisturbed and out of history for over 3,000 years. On November 4th, 1922, an English Egyptologist by the name of Howard Carter discovered the steps leading to the tomb of Tutankhamun. Howard Carter then told his benefactor, the Lord Carnarvon, to come to Egypt because he had made a discovery. On November 26, 1922, Carter, Carnarvon, and Carnarvon's daughter would be the first people to enter Tutankhamun's tomb in over 3 millennia. When asked if anything was in the tomb, Carter would reply with the famous words, "Yes, wonderful things." Although his tomb was discovered in November of 1922, Tutankhamun's burial chamber and sarcophagus would not be uncovered till February of 1923. Tutankhamun's tomb came to be known as KV62 and would yield over 5,000 artifacts, along with a treasure trove of information. Although Tutankhamun was only supposed to be a footnote in the history of Egypt, the uncovering of his tomb and its artifacts made Tutankhamun, or King Tut, one of the most famous pharaohs in history. The ancient Egyptians believed a pharaoh would live as long as his name was remembered. Carter's discovery has ensured that the young monarch will remain immortal, because Tutankhamun will never be forgotten.